Hey guys, today we're going to review a little bit about kind of what a decimal is and its relationship to a fraction. So hopefully today, by the end, you'll be able to go a little bit between what a fraction looks and sounds like to writing it as a decimal. So what's important to remember about that is this idea of the 1. Okay? 1 can change based on what you are talking about, and fractions always have to deal with whatever the 1 is that you're talking about. So I could have my 1 be my Coke, and I could talk about half of my Coke. Or we could talk about 3/4 of Luigi. Or we could talk about 1/10 of a book. Now all those depend on the size of the pop, and the size of Luigi, and the size of the book. It can change. Not every book has the same amount of pages. So 1/10 of one book might be different than 1/10 of the other book. So you always have to identify what the 1 is that you are talking about. So today, for the moment, we are going to pretend that this is the 1. Now, you've probably worked with blocks like this in the past. Normally, you talk about this as being worth 100. Okay? That's okay, but today this is going to be worth our 1. So, if that is worth our 1, then this, we need to think about how many of these does it take to make this. Well, it takes 10 of these to make that, so that means this is 1/10 of this. Okay? Then we can also talk about these little guys. Okay? How many of these does it take to make this? Well, it takes 100, so this is 1/100th of this. So I'm going to pause it just to kind of let you think that through a little bit, and then we're going to use that to do a couple things. Alright, we are going to practice just a little bit here. So, we're going to talk about the 1 first. So again, we are going to pretend that this is representing the 1. So I know you probably don't have these type of blocks at home, but you can always draw pictures of what you think. So I'm going to pause here in just a second. I want you to write down what you think 3/100ths would be, 2/10ths would be, and then 2 and 1/10 as well. So you're just going to draw a picture. So remember, we're using this type of block, and this type of block to do that. So you can just draw pictures of flats, which would be this one, kind of like sticks, and then kind of just cubes there. Alright, let's see how you did. So remember, this is the 1. So I'm going to start up here at 2/10. So I think, what of these blocks, or which of these blocks, does it take 10 of them to make the whole? And I know that that is this kind of block. And how many of that kind of block do I need? I need 2 of them. So my answer for that one is going to look kind of like just 2 sticks. If I go over here, I think, what type of block does it take 100 to make up one of these? And I know that's going to be kind of like this one. So how many of those do I need? I need 1, 2, 3 of those. And then I come up here. This is 2 and 1/10. Now the interesting thing about this one is I have 2 whole things. So I have 2 of the 1, whatever that is. So the 1 is this, so I need 1 of those, and I need another 1 of those. So I have 2 of those, and 1/10. And so from here I know that that's kind of like the stick looking one, so I need 1 of those. So I'd have 2 of those, flat ones, and then 1 stick to make 2 and 1/10. Alright, now that you're able to represent the different kind of like fractions and decimals with blocks, we're going to move on to try to write them as decimals now. So we'll kind of just take them one at a time here. So we have 1. Well, 1, obviously we just put a 1 in the 1's place. So that one's pretty simple. Hopefully you already knew how to do that one. Let's do 2/10 next. Now the thing that's kind of nice about fractions and decimals is they sound very, very similar, and I can write it pretty much just the way that it sounds. So if I already know where the 10ths place is, I can go ahead and just write a 2 in there. If I don't, I go to my chart, kind of like this. I need 2/10. So I find tenths, there's tenths. I need 2 of those, and that's all the numbers I have. So I have kind of a decimal and then a 2. I'd read that as 2/10. Normally when I write that, if I take it out of the chart, I'm not going to leave it just like that. I like to have something in front of it, like a 0.2, just to show that I don't have anything there. Okay. So let's do another one then. That one's done. Let's do 300ths. 300ths. Well, here's hundredths, so I put a 3. Now, what you probably notice is that there's a decimal and there's a blank spot. We can't have blank spots between numbers and decimals like this. We have to have something in every place value out to our last place value there. So we put in kind of a filler. So we don't leave a blank. We're going to go ahead and put a 0 in there. And we have that. So if I pull that out of there, it kind of looks like a decimal, a 0, a 3. Again, I don't like to have this decimal be the first thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a 3 in front of it. So I would read this as 300ths. 300ths. Okay, done with that one. Let's go to this next one. 2 and 1/10. 2 and 1/10. Well, when I say 2, I mean just kind of like 2 ones. So I'm going to put 2 in the ones place. And 1/10. Well, there's a tenth, so I put a 1 there. So I pull that out of the chart. I see a 2, a decimal, and a 1. I don't need to fill anything in with zeros or anything like that. So I would just read this as 2 and 1/10. When you're reading this, the decimal, instead of saying point or something like that, I'd like it if you start saying and. So 2 and 1/10. So let me put up a couple more examples. You can go ahead and put them into the chart if you need to. Otherwise, I want you to go ahead and just write or just say them or write them as decimal form. So here's a couple of fractions I'd like you to try. What if we did 75 hundredths, and let's do 5 and 7 thousandths, just to see what you do there. So this one might be a little bit tricky, giving you a heads up on that one. So go ahead and pause. I'd like you to write those as decimals. Alrighty, let's look at this one first. Now, it might have been a little tricky as well, because I have kind of a double digit thing up here. So 75 hundredths. I'm actually going to put that in here like this. Just like in the numbers, just if it was just a 75, it's 7 tens and 5 ones. Well, 75 hundredths, it's going to be 7 tenths and 5 hundredths. So if I pull that out of there, that is equal to, it's the same thing as a decimal 7.5, but I don't like the decimal in front, so I'm going to put that. It's kind of a 0.75 or 0 and 75 hundredths. Okay, 5 and 7 thousandths. 5 and 7 thousandths. Now I can't leave blank spots, so I'm going to fill those in with zeros. So I pull that out of there. That is equal to 5 and I see a 0, 0, 7. 5 and 7 thousandths. So go ahead and mark how you are feeling about today's video.